Let's talk a little bit about mixing mud. Okay, I'm in the bed coat stage, so I need another batch of mud mixed up. I'm at the bottom of the barrel, and I'm going to get it out of this box. And I'm going to show you for bed coat the consistency of how I like to mix my mud for spreading a bed coat. So we just open the box up. Now we're dumping that box of mud into this barrel. Sometimes it can be a pain, sometimes it comes out nice and easy. If you hold the ends of it and kind of bounce it, and it just comes out of that bag. So, alright, I dumped my box of mud in my bucket. So for a bed coat, I don't want it real runny. I want it kind of stiff, but I do want to mix some water in with it. And yours, you know, these boxes of joint pound come pre-mixed, ready to use, they say. But I guarantee if you don't mix it with a drill, you're going to get bubbles and all kinds of air pockets into that mud when you go to spread it on the wall. So you always got to mix your mud. So I just dumped about, I don't know, a cup of water in there. And it floats on top, as you can see. I don't know if you can see it or not. And then I'll take my paddle and I'll just shove it about, I don't know, a quarter of the way in there. Then you grab your drill. You set this drill up. And then you mix that cup of water. You want to mix it in thoroughly. And you want to wrap your legs around the bucket, because if you don't, the bucket will just take off spinning when you start mixing. So I mix it till it's all creamy now, but you can see it's not dripping off my paddle, it's not running off my paddle. That's a good thing for bed coat. Now if I was taping, I'd want that mud to be running soupy off my paddle, but it's not. Because I want it, for a bed coat, I want it a little bit stiff. Let me get this paddle off this drill. And like I said, I put about a quarter or a cup of water. If I go to spread it and I see it's too thick, which there you can kind of see the creamy consistency. If I go to spread it and I see it's too thick, and then I'll add a little bit more water and I'll mix it again. But right now, I'm making this for tomorrow. I'm about done for the day. And I'll want to take my 6-inch and I'll scrape the edges, scrape all that excess mud off there. And then once that's all scraped off, I'll take my little brush, dip it in water, and I'll go around the edges of that bucket of mud and wash all the mud that's on the side of the buckets down into the mud itself. The reason why is because you don't want your bucket getting all crusty. When you got a thin layer of mud on anything, it'll dry out rather quickly, and then when it dries out and you go to rub your knife up against it, it'll throw them little bit of crust into your mud. You don't want that. Crust is bad for when you're trying to spread mud on the walls. All it will do is it'll make little lines and stuff in where you rub your brush or blade across it. So I got my bucket all rinsed down. I'm going to do the same thing with my lid. I'm going to Make sure there ain't got no dried up drywall mud on here. I'll even do the outside. Clean, when you're working with mud, believe it or not, it's a messy job, but you always want to keep everything nice and clean. Because them little crusties, when you go to wipe your knife across your wall, will haunt you. So I got my lid cleaned off. Now, that's set, and I'll just set it on there, not real tight, but enough to where air ain't gonna get to it fast. Now, at the end of the day, you know, usually your tools are all crusted up with dried up mud, your pan. You always want to keep your knives and your pans clean of all that stuff. I can't tell you how many times during the day I brush my knives off in my pan. Like I said, them little crusty drywall mud will haunt you when it's coming to the finishing point of your spreading mud. 6-inch, see how crusty that is? I always keep a bucket of water near my mixing center. Makes it a little convenient. And I got a little dollar store little brush that I use to clean everything off. And it seems to do the job. This brush is probably about 5 years old. I could use another brand new one. See how clean that is now? Once I clean everything up, look, I got a little hunk of mud on my pan. And I generally try not to throw any leftover mud that's in my pan back into my bucket, because chances are you got dried up crust in there mixed in with that. Pan's all nasty looking. I'll scrub that sucker to where it's shiny. It doesn't take that long. One good thing about drywall mud is it washes off pretty easy. Once it gets a little wet, and I'll get right in the corners. I don't want nothing, no excess left in there. The corners, the outside, and also you want to make sure your hands are clean. I mean, if you're defeating the purpose if you got drywall crud mixed on your hands and you're trying to clean your tools. All right, get this other end. Alright, I got it all washed off all the way around, and once you get it all that mud cleaned out, the last thing you want to do with your knives and your pan when you're done at the end of the day, after you're done washing them, is another important step. And you want to take a dry towel and you want to actually dry them off. Because if you don't, they will build up rust and really quick. So you want to kind of dry it off. And there you go. I got a brand new clean pan ready for tomorrow. And the same with your knives. That's very important. If you don't dry them off after you're done washing them, they will rust up on you rather quickly. I don't know if they're stainless steel, what kind of metal they're made out of, but they're definitely not rust proof. And I'll do both. Once I dry them off, I'll set them in a dry spot. My 8-inch, the 8-inch I use quite a bit when it comes to bed coating. And that's about it. Okay, everything's cleaned up, dried off. I'm gonna go dump this dirty water out and refill with some nice clean water for tomorrow. But that's about it. Hope you enjoyed the video. We're almost done with this drywall venture and we'll be getting on to some others. Peace out. Smash that like and subscribe button.